Hello and welcome to this video. So you can probably guess, but since we've just had the release of Assassin's Creed the movie, I reckon I might take a look at how video game movies are going and some history, and we'll get onto some points later. But we can all agree that video games are pretty great, and because of that, the people who make movies seem to have gotten it in their head that they should try to make a form of media out of a form of media. It all started in the May of 1993 when we were treated with the Super Mario Bros. The movie. With all the Super Mario things that we've all grown to love. Dinosaur villains trying to rule the world, reptile creeps in big trench coats, goo, so much goo. All the staples of the Super Mario video games that we know and love. And after the success of that, movie makers took another crack with Double Dragon, and another with Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat, and another Mortal Kombat, and there have been more and more through the years. Tomb Raider, Final Fantasies, Resident Evil, Doom, Prince of Persia, which I kind of like. Then after the other year's stellar Hitman movie that was universally praised, Hollywood have kind of decided to take a huge swing this past year with Warcraft and Assassin's Creed. Both huge names, both had tons of money put in, both pretty mixed to negative received. It almost seems like there's a curse on video game movies that makes it impossible for video game movies to be made. So with this video, I'd like to just share some of my thoughts on why video game movies are terrible, and that hopefully you can agree with, and we together can talk to the movie people with all this interesting knowledge and maybe get a good video game movie. So the first reason I can really think of is that video games, or at least the ones that might get a good story for a movie, are already a good story in itself. Like, take The Last of Us, for example. That's a game a lot of people seem to love with its own story and stuff. Like, there's actually currently a movie in development that Sam Raimi has been pushing for ages, and now look, I love Sam Raimi. You know I love Sam Raimi, but why does there need to be a movie of this game? Because if they're trying to tell the story that the game told, why not just play the game? But if they're trying to tell an original story with the characters, then it's not really an adaptation, and why not just make another movie? You get what I'm saying? Like, both ways, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Why make a game of something if it's just going to be the same thing? But why change things? Because if you're using the name, then fans expect to see the things from the game. I can understand with books, like a film adaptation of a book, like a Lord of the Rings. Yes, it's the same story, but it's got all the production value of music and awesome visuals that some people prefer to reading. Plus, you know, it's a lot shorter. And maybe that's the reason for making a movie of a video game, but to me, if you're looking for a 2-hour version of an 8-hour game, you might as well just jump on YouTube and watch the cutscenes or something, because it's going to be, you know, as good. You don't have to pay for it, all that great stuff. But on the other side, you've got games with absolutely no story that people try to make movies out of. Battleship, Angry Birds, Tetris. Whose idea was it to make a Tetris movie? That just reeks of brand squeezing. Studios have clearly gone, people like these games probably, let's make a movie out of it that features nearly nothing except a clearly forced mechanic like that topographical map in Battleship, and we'll call it a video game movie. Like, that's not a video game movie, that's just a thing that features the same name. And I can't tell you why these are terrible video game movies, because I don't know. I only know they're terrible movies. Period. They've got nothing to do with the video game. They've, like, the one forced mechanic. They're just bad. And to me, shows that studios clearly don't understand video games, because instead of choosing something that might benefit from a movie, like, look, it's not a critically well-received movie or anything, but there was that Final Fantasy movie, I think it's Kingsglaive, that fleshed out the latest Final Fantasy game. Like, it was in canon. Like, it was a part of the story. You could watch it and you could play the game, and parts of it were explained a bit better because you'd played the game. Imagine if they made more movies based in a video game universe that actually expanded and fleshed out the story. With an idea like that, the only thing left to make is a good movie, which, look, in itself is difficult, and I in no way claim to know how. But if you had an idea like that, like if you made a movie about, let's use The Last of Us again. What if you made a movie that wasn't following those characters at all? Like Joel and Ellie were somewhere else in the universe, but a random other set of characters, and it explored the universe a bit, and it was canon, like it was part of the universe. Then fans would have a reason to watch it, and it wouldn't, like, you know, mess with all their expectations of it because they've played a different story. And I know I was kind of saying before about changing things with the same name and people wouldn't like it, but what I'm talking about here is a completely original story in that universe that doesn't contradict the universe and fleshes out the universe. Like, that sounds spectacular to me. And yeah, Assassin's Creed just kind of did that. And yes, it's divisive, but I definitely say it's a leap of faith, if you will, in the right direction. Now, the last but certainly not least reason I reckon video game movies are terrible, and I've just kind of touched on it a little bit before, is that every viewer, every person who's played the video game has their own set of experiences with the game and expectations for the movie. I feel like that point sort of speaks for itself, but I'll elaborate. Every single person under the sun has played a game in a very different way to all the other people and have enjoyed the game for totally different reasons to other people. Like, imagine if someone played Mario just because they enjoyed killing turtles, right? Then you've got another person who played it because he enjoyed throwing fireballs. And both of these people hated the thing the other person liked. Then the powers that be created a Mario movie with neither of these things or both of these things. Both fans are going to be like, that's not my Mario. And you've got some unsatisfied viewers because they have these totally different sets of expectations. Look, I know that's a pretty crazy scenario, but do you get what I'm saying? Like, that sort of, we've played this and enjoyed it for different reasons, and there's no way that the studio makers are going to know those reasons. This severely affects the flip side, because the studio wouldn't understand what people like about the game and will inevitably choose the wrong things because they have about 6 million fans screaming at them to do different things with their film. So in a way, both hands will be tied behind the creative people's backs. They can't change the source material because why use the name? They shouldn't just do a straight telling of the same story because why not just play the game? And look, they're starting to go in the right direction, I feel, with the idea of making in-universe movies that flesh out the game, such as Assassin's Creed and that Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15 movie. But it would appear that in the end, video game movies are terrible for the exact same reason a lot of other movies are terrible. They just are, like any bad movie. They're just bad. And yes, there's a couple of things I think that studios are shooting themselves in the foot with, like I've just said, the whole changing things or keeping it the same or blah blah blah. But I personally think we as fans should begin to push for more of these sort of in-universe movies, like that Assassin's Creed movie, because then movie makers will be able to take more creative approaches. And I am 100% certain that if we do that, if we have these video game movies that aren't just retelling the same story, that aren't, doing anything with what you've already had, like they aren't doing anything with the story you personally have already experienced and played, but are trying new things in the universe, then I'm 100% certain we will be seeing a good video game movie somewhere down the line. And thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've all enjoyed and gleaned some insight from this video. But tell me though, what do you think is the best video game movie? Leave your thoughts down below. Have a good one. Jay Grizzle, out.